Hello, my name is Mike Baker. I'm actually the beef cattle extension specialist for Cornell University, but I also manage Wooded Acre Farm, where we run about 36 to 40 cows. We graze some stocker cattle in the summer and then sell some finished beef direct to consumers.
Hi, I'm Troy Bishopp. I work for the Madison County Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm also manager of Bishop Family Farm in Deansboro, where we custom graze beef cows. And I'm also known as the grass whisperer because I whisper in the grass. And I really love beef. Thank you.
My name is Tucker Couts. I'm a senior technician for Ontario County Soil Water Conservation District, as well as owning a small beef farm in the town of Bristol.
So when you look at this field, you see a lot of, let's say, zones. So you've got a lot of white clover over here. You got this area here that's got a lot of stuff in it. Some would call them weeds, others would call them forage. And then if you pan over here, you've got these clumps of kind of a nice mixture of grasses and legumes. And so when you look across there, something has happened. And so we're going to ask Mr. Baker what is happening here in the weed pile.
So that area, there's several plots around I fed round bills.
Here you've got disturbance and hay. And so what I like about it, even though there's these volunteer weeds, because it was either brought in from the hay or it was from the seed bank, is there's a lot of feed there per foot or per acre. And so what's really nice is if you look across the pasture, you know, there is a lot of feed, and it's really dense. Even though you have these weeds, the cows will eat them. But that's a function of the beauty of hay feeding on a pasture. If you give it enough rest, you get all this awesome grass. Mm-hmm. And so when you see these clumps of mostly clover, I'm thinking that they really like this and they took it down lower than you probably wanted. Mm-hmm. And so just grazing height, the way they graze it, tells the soil or the seed bank, hey, I really like clover here because they graze it. So it's the only thing that'll grow that close to the ground when they kind of graze it too tight. Mm-hmm. And so then right here is what I think is a dairy farmer's delight, or a beef finisher, or actually any grazer, is you have this wonderful mixture of grass. There's some forbs in here, some wild chicory, and I mean, just look at all this biomass down here. And so what's beautiful about this is this spot right here is probably twice as much forage as some spots over there. And the reason is, if we've parted it, there's cow manure right here. Mm-hmm. So what that actually does is cow manure provides fertility and rest, because no cow likes to eat around its own poop. Mm-hmm. And so rest and fertility, a fertility pat was right here, and look at all the forage. So if you can imagine putting the cow pies and having this much more feed across the whole paddock, you basically got another paddock. Mm-hmm. So the goal again is to keep grazing the way you're grazing and getting the manure. It'd be great to have the cows just poop, every 3 or 4 feet and dot the whole place, and then you'd have this. But it took about 3 weeks for it to sort of incorporate, and we're going to try to look at cow pies at some point. So let's talk about cow pies. Quality of cow pies, or the consistency, is a good indicator, one of the best indicators you can have for health of the animal's pasture, biology, and all that. It tells you a lot. A lot of times, I know it's just poop, but I picked this pie because it's like a pumpkin pie. There's a divot in the middle. It's a consistency that's very, it's not too dry, it's not too wet, it's just right. And so we all talk about pumpkin pies as the measure of good gain, good grass. If it's too wet and it's going out the back end, there's too much protein, not enough energy. If it's too dry, there's not enough protein. And again, depends on the animal needs and what it should look like. So when I look at a cow pie, generally what I'm focused in on is the holes. And I don't see as many as I see in other ones, but basically there's a couple holes started, and those are the dung beetles that just start to show up. So the immediately the see that dung beetle right there? Ooh, he's a burrower. See it? So he immediately is taking the moisture out of the cow pie and starting to incorporate it down towards the bottom into the soil. And so there's probably a couple species of dung beetles that are here in the Northeast. What I found is there's more dung beetles, kind of like a pasty. It's got a little bit of fiber. There's some meat in it. Instead of, if it's too watery, they don't like a high nitrogen manure. And then if it's too clumpy, they can't really work it. They like this nice consistency. So then you got these bothersome flies. What's neat about these dung beetles is they take the moisture out, and when the flies, they're depositing their eggs, it takes the moisture out, and then the sun bakes the maggots and stuff, because it's really about the biology. Make it and they will come. And you can almost, there's literally, that was dropped and there's dung beetles in it. So that's a good measure of your biology in your system. If there was no holes after a month, something's off. I don't know what, but the dung beetle is the indicator for me that things are going pretty well. So you can see back in some of these other ones, there's more holes. But again, the cow pie is one of those tools that don't look past it, look at it and say, is this the right consistency for the kind of weight gain that I need? It'll tell you pretty quickly, the health of the animals. So if you walk around, like, look at what they actually grazed. So the grazing management, sometimes they don't know they like them until you sort of force them. Like when we finish animals and you have high gain, you don't want to force them to eat anything. So those may not be the animals. So a cow, let's say, or a dry ewe or something, you want to force them to eat more of these weeds and stuff. And it won't hurt their performance, but they're not lactating, or they're in a different scope of their lactation. And so some of this isn't palatable at all. And so, maybe this is, and maybe a couple of those. And so I imagine if we walked around that the cows went through here and they might have taken a bite. They might have had one leaf, and they might have grazed a little bit of this. This is, they might have took a little So usually, like that right there, usually cows will eat the flower because they've eaten the flower off the top of that thistle. And the reason they eat the flower is because it's got all the sugar in it. So you can just keep walking around. What are they eating? What are they not? And then at some point, there's some level that I need to clip this. Or if you look at the growth cycles of these particular weeds or forage, formerly known as weeds, most of these, to get them in control, you need them to actually get to a height that they think they're going to live another day. So they put all their carbohydrates or photosynthesis into getting a seed. And so now is the time to take them out. They are doing a heck of a lot of work for the soil health, because the taproot, those trees that are volunteering in here, and any other forb like the chicory, right? If you, where's my shovel, man? Come on over here. Let's just dig this. Let's see how. Good luck. Just see how can you get down there and see how big that taproot is? So these are ecosystem services that you have been providing for America. Thank you, Mike Baker. So your cows didn't eat them, but they are also helping. So that broke off. So imagine, I mean, so you know, the taproot's probably, I don't know, so it's down there mining nutrients out of the soil. And then what happens when this gets either clipped or grazed, or we have winter, and it goes back on the soil. And so it's mined the nutrients in the soil, then it goes back on the ground and it nourishes the plant, the other plants. So at some point, it would be good to chop it up, or put a ton of mama cows in here and let them trample it or something, because what we need is that fertility that they mine back on the soil. We're not going to take it away. We're not going to bale it. If you think about it, even though it's not what you want, it's just a tree. Right? It's shading, and so when it shades the ground, the grass can grow. I mean, the grass is literally growing right to the. So you say, it's really killing production. Is it? Because the grass literally grows right underneath this. And maybe there's some symbiotic relationships going, because this is punching a hole in the ground and the worms might like it, or you know, it's cool in the drought. So yes, it's a pain in the butt, but sometimes if you look at it from a different context, you get soil health out of it. Just again, you are in control. The manager with the fence and the cows you're the orchestra leader. You can say, okay, what's cool about all this stuff is it's a learning experience. That's what a pasture walk is. Like, instead of just saying, I hate weeds, we're gonna kill them all. Okay, we could do that, yes. But how about consider, you know, something more interesting or whatever. We can always, after the frost, we can start over fresh every year. So these will be under X amount of snow, hopefully, and they will be back on the soil. So whether you cut them or stomp them or whatever, by next spring, these will be rotted and down on the ground feeding the soil. They talk about 20 earthworms per foot of soil, per square foot of soil would be awesome. And so last week we were in a pasture that had been corn for 10 years straight. There wasn't one earthworm. I dug like 5 holes. And so here it is still pretty, there's moisture in it, right? It's clumpy, there's some moisture. So how many, can we see some earthworms there, Tuck?
There's one on the other side. And then see, yeah, I start to see a couple over here. So 2, 3.
Yeah, there's a couple. Okay, just dig a hole and see how many earthworms. If you got a lot, that's good. And if you don't, why is that? Is the soil too dry? Is it too hot? Is there no cover? So what I like about this is, so we have all these root hairs, right, and that crumbly soil. So when it does rain, most of the moisture is getting trapped right in that first 4 inches, and then it slowly goes down. And so in a sward that's mixed grasses, and I'll call these forbs for lack, and trees, there's a forb here. Those root systems take up nutrients differently, and they sequester water differently. I really like this pasture, even though, again, it's kind of got out of hand a little bit. There's still a lot of excellent. You probably haven't plowed this.
Well, I've been on this farm for 20 years, and
So-
it was this when I was
So
here.
they talk about a pasture takes about 12 years for it to get to its zone of, right, and then after every year it gets that inertia, it gets better. Like a lot of the newer pastures don't have quite the symbiotic relationship going on, but
20 worms in there anyways, because I put all those back in here. So
okay.
4,
All right.
yeah.
All right, Mike he's hit the threshold on this hole.
Managing your pasture requires knowing how much forage is available based on your acreage, animal numbers, and stand density. This is constantly changing as density varies seasonally or based on weather conditions. Knowing your forage amount helps you calculate paddock size needed to feed your animals for a set amount of time. A grazing stick can be used to measure how much forage is available using the average height and density of grasses in the pasture. Forage density and forage type will help determine the estimated dry matter in pounds per acre. A grazing chart can help you plan and manage your rotations through your pastures.
What we need to do is try to figure out how much grass is growing. So we've got a bunch of clover, and then we got not so much, and then we got some grass over there, and so just poke the stick around and see what we think the average height is. It's very practical because it ain't gonna be perfect. We'll just say whatever we think it is, we'll probably be wrong, but we'll be in the ballpark. And so for farmers, that's what we need, ballpark. So if you don't have a stick, I actually have my wrist. This is the tool that I use. So from here to here is 7 inches, so I can go down there and like, oh, okay. And, or if you have a rubber boots or a pair of work boots you always wear, you figure out, okay, you have a basic 6 inches or whatever. And because who carries a pasture stick? I don't know. Once in a while I carry a pasture stick, but rarely you're basically kind of eyeing it. So what do you got for an average?
So I'm gonna say 9 inches.
9 inches, okay. And so let's about the dots, okay? So pick a representative spot you think of what you just got, I never actually knew you had to slide it through, and I was like, so what we're doing is we're looking down at the sward, and there's dots on that, and so each dot correlates to a number, a density number, I believe. Yep. So how many dots do you see? 4. Okay. So what does that correlate?
So we have to pick our species.
So we've got a species mix, right? Of orchard grass, clover. You know, a lot of stuff isn't on here, but we just should say mixture.
Yep.
So we saw 4 dots. So you count the dots. If you have 3 or more, that's 150 pounds per acre inch. So for every inch of forage, you have 150 pounds of dry matter per acre. We're wrong, but we'll go with it. 150 times 9, right? 150 times 9 inches is how much?
So 1350.
1350.
Yep.
So 1,350 pounds of dry matter per acre is what we came up with. It could be more, probably is, given the, you know, you just pick a spot here. So 1,350, so we have, so you use that number on your sheet, and your cows are going to eat so much. So when you have, we're doing grazing planning right here. We have, in the spring we had 32 cows, right? 32 yearlings that weighed what?
Probably about 6.
So are you using 3% of their body weight, or? Okay. So 600, so they eat about 18 to 20 pounds of dry matter per head, times 32. 32 times 2.
64.
So you have 640 pounds of need, and you have 1,350 pounds of forage, right? And so what's that give you for a paddock size? About a half an acre, right? A half an acre per day. So we just did grazing planning. That right? You can use numbers. You can say, oh no, I don't believe it, and you can do other measurements. You can keep practicing.
Now,
But generally we have a half an acre of this kind of feed to feed 32 yearlings, but this is more than a half an acre. So you could say, well, I know that the grazing plan here was every 2 days I'm going to move. So it's probably pretty close. An acre for 2 days, right? And
now, how do you factor in the spring flush? Obviously, we're here in the August. If you're doing these same calculations and we come out and slide
well,
that,
it'd be different.
Yeah.
So, again, it's just a quick math. Just a quick, you don't have to have a stick. You can kind of like look around and say, okay. So here's the misnomer of that. So that number that we just came up with, that's eating all of it. We forgot, we can only take X amount. We can't like nub it to the ground unless we want to. So we're actually going to be closer to more. We're going to need more of we're not going to be a half an acre. We're going to be more, because we're going to leave a 3 to 4 inch residual, or however much residual you want to leave. You might want to say, well, I want to leave like 6 inches. I only take 3 inches. So you do the calculation in the number of cows, and again, you can just keep adjusting and then see what you come up with, because it doesn't matter what we all think. That guy right there, the operator, is the one that makes the decisions on, because he knows ahead what he wants to accomplish. And in his world of residuals or stockpiling or other, I want to wean the calves here, so I don't want to take it down. I'm selling animals. I got a plan, and we don't know that the battle plan. We're kind of just doing a quick, but Mike kind of knows, and so when we do these pasture walks, I like to, have what is the battle plan, and so when you look at a paddock, it's only a snapshot in time. But really, it shouldn't be that difficult. It should be fun. Like, you got a measuring tool and you got a quick piece of paper, and it shouldn't be that. It should be 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You should just be, and then like grazing management, that little bit of figuring every rotation, because it's different, because the grass can change and the weight of the cows are changing unless they're really not gaining any weight. So the heavier they get, the more grass you're going to need. And then if you want to leave more residual because it's dry, or you want to stockpile or whatever, so you keep making adjustments to your sizes, or you bring in a hayfield or sacrifice area or whatever to maintain this awesome sward. We talked about some tools today, and a lot of us agency professionals, we use some of these tools, and this is a grazing planning tool. It's available to almost every farmer that I know of in various states. So we talked about this. This is actually mine. So this is a working version of it. So we basically have cows that eat 3% of their body weight, and they have a demand per day. Then we have what the land will produce for tons of dry matter per acre. Then we have a residency period, meaning how many days are going to be in a certain paddock, and so then we determine the paddock size, the demand versus in the supply, and how many days we're going to stay there, and we come up with a daily demand, or what we need. And then we need to figure in our day's rest. So there's this step 5, and then we take that number of days rest, the number of the paddocks that we need, plus the size, and we get however many acres we need for a 20-day rest period of 30, 45, 60. This is all on this sheet here. And then we move that to the actual. So from my farm, the actual farm, this is the planned farm, and then this is the actual, where the paddock sizes are all different. And then you plug in what you need per day, and you get how many days are available for a rotation. So it's a really easy tool. I say it's easy, it takes some practice, but it's something that we use. And so we use that tool, and then we also use this grazing chart. So it has these paddocks, and what it basically allows us to do, or myself, is plan out my grazing with pencil, and then in green is what actually happened. So we plan, we implement, we plan, we implement, we plan ahead. So you can see from this what we had for rain. All these pinks were 90-degree days. We try to keep track of certain things, anything you want on these grazing charts. And so you'll see that indeed I am in Ontario County right here, and my cows today are in paddock 7. It's right on the grazing chart. Ontario County paddock 7. See how that works out?
Yeah.
And so then you'll see in pencil that I have my grazing plan, my forage inventory planned out until December 12th. I have it in pencil. It's sort of a battle plan, what I think is going to happen. And this allows me to plan around events, camping, weddings, other things. And then we'll see how that plan comes together. But you never do it in pen, because if you're grazing for a living, you're always going to be wrong. So you want to have a pencil to erase and replan and rethink and make other decisions. So for me, it's an integral tool to have a grazing chart or some kind of monitoring, just to keep your wits about you. I advocate strongly for, it doesn't have to be this style, it could be another style of grazing planning chart, a tool, whatever, to keep your head wrapped around making decisions in the growing season and the non-growing season. So I highly recommend it. You can get a grazing chart if you're looking to get one from the Ontario County Soil and Water, or pretty much any conservation district in the state